The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 179.
179.
What is our topic today?
This is what happens between death and life.
Cool.
I love to talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since we've been on the death topic, why not keep it rolling?
Yeah.
Just kidding. This is a good one, though.
Yeah, I think it'll be.
Cool. Yeah. Well, before we talk about this episode, anything you want to talk about from last week?
Yes, last week we did Death by Design Part 2, and we received this message from Ray. Ray says, I've listened to many of your podcasts, and one thing I know you impress upon listeners is not to ignore the signs from loved ones on the other side. I've received a lot of these in my life, but I've always brushed them off. Yesterday, I went to a funeral of a dear family friend. Right after leaving, I stopped at the door, and as soon as I walked through the door, I heard that old song, Spirit in the Sky. You know the one. Specifically, I heard these lines immediately. When I die and they lay me to rest, gonna go to the place that's the best. When I lay me down to die, gonna go up to the Spirit in the Sky. It made me smile because I felt like it was a message from and about my friend that just passed away. Just wanted to say thanks for encouraging me to keep my eyes, ears, and mind open to these signs, Ray.
That's cool, Ray.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
that's a great song, first of all. I love that song. Mm-hmm. But second of all, it's one of those songs that's kind of been around for so long that it is a song that you would hear like in a department store or anywhere, like out in public, in a restaurant. And it's the times like that where it jumps out at you. Mm-hmm. That's a reason it's jumping out at you, because the song plays all over the place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you might walk through a store and hear it and not even think twice, but in particular moments in our life, they jump out at us.
Yeah.
Like as if, listen.
That's exactly what it is. How else are they supposed to get messages through to the average person? Mm-hmm. Even for me, I still get all of those things, and I love it, instead of them just telling me everything, because sometimes I'm not open to listening to what they're saying, but I'm open to the signs. So, yeah, absolutely keep your eyes open for those signs, because they are everywhere, for sure. And then every week we answer 2 questions. The first question is from Dustin. He says, I have a question and it's bothered me for years, and I'm sure you've had this happen to you before. About 5 years ago, I was driving down this dirt road with my cousin, and I thought I heard him say, slow down. It was so crisp and clear. I looked at him, and at first I was a bit confused because I wasn't going fast. I apologized to him, thinking I scared him for some reason on my driving, and he said, what? I asked him, didn't you say to slow down? And he said, no. Was this some type of sign? Do spirits communicate with you like this? Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do. Yeah. A lot of times we both do it where we'll be like, what did you say?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I remember coming home from something not that long ago, over the last few months. And it was, anticipation of something. And I remember walking in the front door, and you guys were out in the back, but I heard, so how'd it go? And I went, I turned to look to respond, and nobody was in the room.
Yeah.
And I said so I went outside and saw you. I said, that's weird.
Yeah, I get that kind of stuff all the time, too, where it's like, who said that? And there's nobody around. And that is definitely one way that they get things through to us. Because, again, like, if we're open to listening, they absolutely will. Even before I was a medium, I noticed those things. I've had many instances, but I'll give you one that was pretty cool. I had been having a long-distance relationship, and the relationship was not going well at all. And I was dropping him off at the airport, and I heard crystal clear, this is the last time you'll see him. And it was the last time I saw him.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. But I had, no idea that was a voice coming from the other side. I thought it was just myself. And looking back in retrospect, that one's always tripped me out. Like, whoa, because it was so clear.
Yeah, because there is a difference between like hearing a message internally from the other side. I've had that happen. This is different.
This is a voice.
It's like an audible voice.
Yes.
Like, whoa, who's in the room?
Yes, this definitely was. It was weird. It was like there was somebody in the car with me. It was a trip. And I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, I've had that happen many times, even still. So I know you have too. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it trips you out at first.
Yeah, it can be, because it sounded like you, or it was so quick for me. I thought it was you,
Yeah, I've had many times too where we'll be like, I'll be outside and you'll be inside or whatever, and I'll hear something like your laugh or whatever, and you're not there. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah,
That one I can't explain why I can hear you when you're not there, but that does happen. So, yeah. Anyways, hope that answers your question,
Thanks,
Dustin. Yeah. So when those things happen, I definitely would listen to them, like you did too. This one is from Laura. She says, I was wondering what your thoughts were on the evil eye. In Portugal, where I'm from, when someone is feeling unwell or a feeling of negative pressure, which I can only describe as being in a funk, trained people say a prayer to warn off any bad energy or envy placed on that person. When doing so, the person praying can feel nauseous, have a headache, and often are physically sick. Sometimes when we encounter not very nice people, we sense that they've cast their bad eye upon us. But I feel that empathetic people suck up that energy more than others. And is there such thing as an evil eye? So this is a good question, and it's one of those things that I did not really know anything about. But I'll tell you that we go into a lot of like metaphysical shops, and they're everywhere. It's basically just, it looks like an eye, and not to get confused with a ham's a hand. Ham's a hand is a hand with the third eye in the middle of it. That's different. This is just an eye called the evil eye. They put on bracelets. They put on everything.
Yeah,
okay,
it's like an eyeball.
Yeah, I've always had been naturally deterred from it. Like I don't have anything that has an evil eye on it. I just don't. It's not, and I've never known why. Maybe because the word evil is associated with it, and I just looked at it that way.
Yeah.
But let me read this real quick. What I found online. So what does the eye symbol mean? The evil eye is a curse from Greek culture that has been passed through many decades and still exists today. It states that when someone is envious of you, they'll have the power to give you an evil glare and send bad luck your way. Due to this belief, protection from the evil eye is something that many people actively sought after. This is why in today's times, people use evil eye jewelry as a symbol of protection against bad luck. So wearing this stuff is supposed to repel bad luck. It's supposed to the people that have ill will towards you, that kind of thing.
Evil eye wards it off.
The evil eye wards it off, yeah. So here's my take on this. It depends on what you think. If you think that this is going to work, then it will. If you think that prayer is going to work, then it will. If you think nothing's going to work and you're cursed, then you'll be cursed.
Right.
It just is all about mind over matter. So I don't buy into any of this stuff. I never have.
And if you, on the flip side, if you believe this type of thing, like what you're saying, which is true, it's whatever you believe is going to be your reality.
Yes.
So I guess the easiest way to say this is you could save yourself $5.99 on the bracelet, and before you walk out of the house, do a meditation and envision like a protective shield or bubble around you. And that's going to do the same thing as purchasing this bracelet with a fake eye in it.
Yes.
And, but that's the same reason that people might wear rosemary beads or other things.
Burn candles or it's ritual.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is whatever works for you. If you want to do that, then do it. But again, it doesn't matter what you do. It really is your thoughts that matter.
And you see these things like widespread, like we said, in a lot of the shops we go in, and probably a lot of people don't even really know what those represent or take the time, maybe. They just think they look cool. And they kind of do. They're interesting looking, but
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of gimmicky, if you ask me a little bit.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just not into it.
Yeah.
I would prefer the bracelets that are crystal,
Yeah.
those. But yeah. So anyways, Laura, hope that
Thanks.
answered your question.
Thanks, Laura.
And of course, that's our opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody's different and got their own opinion on this, but I truly believe it's all in the perception.
Yeah, if you wear it and it's, you don't have these problems and it's working.
Exactly.
So, yeah, keep it up, I guess.
It works for you. Yep, exactly. Okay, so let's do a reading. Last week, Serena had mentioned during the episode, we read a story from her that her grandmother had committed suicide. Mm-hmm. And so she sent this, and so we're going to read her grandmother.
Okay.
She says, "Thank you very much for discussing my grandma's suicide on your podcast. It meant a lot to both my mom and I. You had mentioned you didn't have her picture, so I thought I'd share that with you in hopes of having a mini reading on your show someday. My question is pretty simple. This is the most difficult time of my life. I don't know how to get through this and move forward. Does she have any guidance or anything to share with me? Thank you so much. You have changed my life for the better, Samantha, and I want you to know how thankful I am. Our paths have crossed." Serena's very sweet. She has been through a lot recently, so I totally understand. But let's talk to Grandma Renee. Okay. It's interesting because if you wouldn't have told me that she committed suicide, that's absolutely not one of the first things I would have picked up from her because, well, first, she's been there quite a while, and so I feel her a lot how she is today, not how she was back then. But I do feel her how she was back then, and I feel like she didn't put off this feeling of that she was going to commit suicide or that she was that depressed. She battled a lot of that stuff internally, but on the outside, she really tried to be a light for other people. And maybe that was a part of her problem, was that she wanted to be that light for other people. And because she does feel like she was an empath, so this would explain that. You're like the energy vampires. They suck your energy and then you're left kind of down and depressed. And if you don't understand that that's what's going on, then you can absolutely have other people that their problems become your problems. And so I think there was a lot going on with her, and I think she didn't know how to deal with it. I also feel like she had gotten some really bad news. I don't know if this is anything that you and your mom have talked about or if she even told you, but this feels like something like illness. It could also be infidelity, but I'm pretty sure that this is something to do with physical illness. Maybe she had gotten some bad news or whatever. There was a lot of things that were piling up on her. But just like every other spirit that I've talked to that's committed suicide, she wishes she could take it back. It was the time that she opted out. Okay, so she opted out both in life and on the soul level. But now looking back at things, she sees how difficult she made life for herself, how she could have really made things easier, and she didn't. And so I asked her, why are you going through all this stuff? Why are you telling us all this stuff? Because she asked you a very specific question. Well, the reason why she is telling us this is because not that you're anything like her or would even consider doing what she did, but you are allowing a lot of other people's problems and outside things to pile up on your plate, as well as your own stuff, as well as everything that you're going through. You're allowing it to pile up, and not really dealing with it. The worry, the concern, the not being able to move past the things that have happened. Those are all of the things that you really need to work on, that your grandma is saying it's really time to put the past in the past. The things that are still going on in your life, they will all work out the way that they're supposed to. There's nothing you can do about the outcome of the things that are going on. Just know that the universe has your back and your grandmother has your back, and she is here watching you and helping you. This is the difficult time of your life, but she wants you to know that after this, there is a lot of peace that is coming your way. it's like I feel like this breaking through a barrier almost, that you haven't quite broken through the barrier, you know, like I don't know how to explain it, but you will. You will. And when you do, and you open that kind of barrier door, whatever you want to call it, you're going to see a beautiful life that's way different than what you're experiencing right now. So she just wants you to trust, believe that everybody over there is looking out for you, and that you are going to be just fine. And just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. So
That's awesome.
Yay. So thank you, Grandma Renee. Appreciate all of that.
And Serena, thank you.
Yes, and
both.
Serena too. Gosh, she looks like such a sweet, happy woman. She reminds me of somebody.
She reminds me of my aunt, my dad's sister.
Yeah, maybe that's who it is. Yeah, definitely. I can see that. So, anyways, so thank you both for
Thanks, guys.
that. And then before we start, shall we give our info?
Go for it.
Okay, so you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. I have a radio show that's starting in a month. That's very, very exciting.
Oh, my
I'm very
God.
excited. So stay tuned for more information on that coming soon.
Very cool.
And then you.
For my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And before the month is up, before the show, I know that I said we would share the theme music for your new show. So before the launches, we will do that in the next couple weeks.
Cool. Very good.
Cool.
Yay.
That's it for me.
Okay.
All right, then. Well, episode 179, What Happens Between Death and Life?
You know, I know that death is a morbid subject for a lot of people, but I've said it before. We need to talk about it. Mm-hmm. It makes it easier to talk about when we talk about it more often. And it makes it less scary to know maybe a little bit of what we're going to go through. A lot of the information that we're going to talk about today is, of course, opinion. Mm-hmm. Things that we've heard from the other side, you know, my mom, whoever comes through. But also, to help plug her book, Dolores Cannon has a book called Between Death and Life.
Great book.
Yes. And she talks about a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. And what has happened a lot on this journey is that I've been told things and shared them with you, and then we come across Dolores Cannon information that validates it. So that book has validated a lot of the information that we will talk about.
Yeah, and I don't exactly remember how long it took her to write that particular book. I know it was over a few years.
Yeah.
But it's just records of all of her many of her clients in past life regression therapy.
Yes.
And what they reported back to her while under hypnosis, and things they shared about not just another life, but what it was like after they died and before they went into a new life.
Yeah. Right.
Hence
Exactly.
heaven.
Exactly. Because I do get asked that a lot. Like, what do we do there? So that's something we'll talk about today. A lot of things. Death marks the moment when the body, or the soul shell, so to speak, stops working to survive. You breathe your last breath, your heart stops, and all of your organs shut down. Death itself is a process, not just for the physical body, but also for the soul. We don't talk about that. We talk about what the physical body is going to go through, but what happens to the soul afterwards?
Yeah.
The journey of the soul continues after it's left this meat suit. Because it's just really, this body is just alone, really.
Yeah.
Most people seem to look at death with sadness and dread. We aren't supposed to view it this way. We aren't really. This is one thing that we got wrong with society. I don't know where this happened, but our lack of understanding of death has made it something very scary for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by talking about it, like you suggested a few minutes ago, more in society, we might be able to change that.
Yes, exactly. And
with a better understanding of what does come next.
Exactly.
And what will this be like?
Even, we have everybody has their own religious beliefs and stuff, but this is still something that we could discuss because, when I was going to religious schools when I was younger and stuff, and they talked about heaven, I literally pictured myself floating on a cloud for eternity. Yeah. And is that really what heaven's like? I mean, I guess if that's what you want it to be like, it can be, but how boring,
Very much.
Yeah. Okay. So the word death itself is deceiving because there really is no such thing as death.
No.
When we are tired of life, we simply take off the flesh and go back to where we started.
Yep. We transition.
Yep. Our real self, the soul, is immortal. It goes on forever, for eternity. We may change form, but we can never be destroyed. Energy is indestructible. Matter, the body itself, undergoes change in the physical, but the soul undergoes changes through experience.
Yeah.
This is a good analogy that I found online that I'd like to share about this. How many times have you changed clothes in this life? Changing your clothing doesn't change who you are behind those clothes. Same thing with death. We change the body, but what doesn't change is the soul.
Right.
And when we leave here, you know, I feel like a lot of people, it's like he who dies with the most toys wins. But really, you don't take any of that with you. What you take with you is the memories, the love that you felt, the challenges, the lessons. All of that is what goes.
I feel like we see more now to science trying to connect the dots.
Yes.
Trying to find proof. Which I'm glad that science is trying to do that. Because if they could somehow find proof, maybe this could ease people's minds a little bit more. At the same time, it could do other things. Cause people to be a little bit more crazy if they knew that, you know, there is no hell per se for the things you do here, but you're going to have to just repeat it.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that's another side of it too. I think for many on this planet, we tend to think biologically that, well, when my heart stops beating, that means nothing's getting blood anymore, including my brain. So when that dies, I'm dead.
Yep.
Like, it's over. It's done.
Yep.
The concept of being able to understand, how do we still, after death, have our memory, our eyesight, and our hearing.
Yeah, right.
But we have no body.
Yes.
This is the part where I would love to be able to see science prove that there is a continuum.
Yes.
Once we leave here, there's a transition. I'll share something really quick that I saw on TikTok that kind of blew my mind, which is a great example of this. There's a famous rapper named KRS-One, and he's also goes by Teacha, but he's a rapper, but also a speaker, and he does a lot of things. He's very intellectual, really smart guy. So he's talking in front of this group of people in a class or whatever it was, and he said, and he holds up Rockstar drink. He's like, I want you all to say, not out loud, but I want you to say inside to yourself, Rockstar. And so everybody does it. And then the next question was, okay, whose voice did you hear that in? He goes, because you heard the voice when you said it to yourself. Nobody else did. But you heard it. His point in this is that we can hear and see our past, and we can hear and see our future. And that when we leave this place, that is proof that if we can talk to ourselves silently in our head, we can hear and see beyond this body.
Yes.
That it's a conscientious thing. It's not a biological thing. That, for me, just kind of said a lot about it.
Yeah.
Of like, wow, I really can see my past. If I don't even have to close my eyes, I can see it. I can see moments that are almost so real, like especially the embarrassing ones that kind of make you cringe and you know hate yourself for a minute. You can feel it. It's real. You can see it.
Yep.
And you, with training, you could do the same with your future.
That's right. Yes. Even without training, you'll have I think everybody does. I mean, they may not realize it, but yeah, because that really is all that the visions are of the future, is they're very similar to like when I replay a memory in my head from the past. It's just that instead of me replaying it, it's information that's being given to me now. And it doesn't make sense because it hasn't happened yet, and so I know it's a future vision. So it is very similar. When you said that, I really loved the way that he had put that, because that exactly is it. We hear ourselves talking in our heads. That's basically what it sounds like when I get messages. Sometimes I can hear the person's voice, but most of the time it just sounds like me. It doesn't sound like, when it's out loud, that a lot of times, like what we were talking about, will sound like somebody in particular.
Yeah.
But when it's in my head, it really doesn't. Like I've mentioned this before, that when my grandma died and I was just kind of standing there staring at her after she died, I kept hearing, "It's just a shell. It's just a shell." But it was in my voice, but it was different. It didn't feel like my own thought, and I had no clue what was going on. I just thought I was nervous, and so I kept repeating that to myself. But I know now that was my mom or my grandma or whoever telling me that,
Right.
From the other side.
Another example of this is that when we connected with Michael, our friend who passed away last March, one of the first things he said was, nobody talks about the colors here. Then we had a reading a couple weeks ago where somebody's loved one said the same thing. Was it Roberto?
Yes.
Somebody, I believe,
you're right.
said
Somebody
something
said
about he couldn't believe the colors. How are you seeing colors?
Yes.
How are you seeing colors?
This is a great question, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how this works, because we don't have a physical body.
No.
So we don't have eyes to see. We're just an energy. Yes, we have our third eye, absolutely, and that's how we communicate. We communicate through telepathy. But if I ask my mother what she sees right now, she'll tell me that she sees us, that she sees us, but she doesn't have eyes. So don't ask me how it works. I just know that they have all the same senses. And like, I've had these almost nightmares of like, well, if you can't see, is it black? Well, what is it? I don't want to be stuck in black forever. And I panic. And I'm like, what are you panicking about? Relax. But it is. That's a big question of what is it then. If we're an energy, how do we see? How do we hear? How do we feel? Well, they're all the intuitive, telepathic senses to begin with,
I think a lot of things that we see in movies, some are good, maybe they're not exact, but they're good translations as to some of the things that are expressed in Dolores's book, Between Death and Life. Let's talk about, for the minute, the moment that you actually take your last breath. The way it's described, and I've heard her talk in many different ways, but one in particular was that it was as easy as breathing. That literally the last breath was like, I think she said that the person said, "I feel cold." And the minute they said that, they were standing outside of their body, looking at themselves in the bed. It was literally like getting up from one chair to another. Then in the actual part of, okay, now I've passed, there's a lot of different examples that we've heard. People that aren't ready to accept right away that they've passed. So they might be in this limbo state for a minute with their spirit guide. They're not alone. Spirit guide's trying to suggest to them, recommend, can we move on? This isn't really, it's time to go.
Yeah.
This isn't heaven, if that's what you're thinking. Some of those descriptions describe these kind of, this waiting area as being foggy, like looking like there's fog and it's sort of gray and you can't see much. I think that's because you don't realize yet that whatever you're going to see is up to you.
Yes.
And once you're informed or come to this realization at that point, whether it's your spirit guide telling you this or your own consciousness becoming fully aware, is at that point, then I can see whatever I want to see.
Yeah.
I think it's that first moment where we realize, okay, the backdrop has changed.
Yeah, right.
The set's different.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So it's, I think that the reason that sometimes art imitates life or vice versa but going with the first one is that some of these people get visions
Yes.
and they want to share these stories on the silver screen
Yes.
of an interpretation of a vision or a dream, just like a musician might get a piece of music that comes to them out of nowhere. So that's kind of, I won't say you can count on it's going to be exactly like that. Well, I had to think it has a lot to do with what you believe
Right.
and what you anticipate.
Right.
But if it's not really what it is, that won't be the case. You will be shown what it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. One of those movies that I would suggest is Disney's Soul.
Yes.
This was one of the movies where I sat there and went, oh my gosh, they get it. Like, Disney's really open to a lot of things, and I love that about them.
Yeah.
But that movie made me go, wow, people are talking about this, and that's so exciting. So if you haven't seen Disney's Soul,
And that was written
Go see
a
it.
while ago. Remember we watched the whole thing about that?
I'm
The guy
sure
is
we
trying to
did.
get that movie made for a while, I was pretty sure.
I'm sure we did, but my memory's so bad I don't remember that.
But it is a great interpretation.
Yes, it's a great movie.
And they use that black kind of background again
yes.
in parts of the movie where when he kind of arrives, it's not,
Yeah. Right.
lights and colors right away. It's like, where are we?
Right, exactly. Yep. So when the body dies, the soul returns to the spirit world. It starts a new journey. How that journey goes and what you do is totally up to you. And that's kind of what Danny was talking about a minute ago. The death experience is different for everyone, as are the experiences that we will have on the other side once we get there. I asked our listeners, when we die, where do you think the soul goes? And people chose multiple options, but 58% said a spirit world many call heaven. And then 19% said we all go to the same place. Another 19% said another dimension. And then some of the other ones were nowhere, it's lights out. Only 2% said that.
Right.
No one said one of the options that I added, which was we either go to heaven or hell depending on our beliefs or our sins.
Right.
No one chose that. And then Sherry added, it goes back to where it came from, wherever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cycle. Nisha said, I chose 3. I believe we go to the same place, which many call heaven, but it's actually just another dimension.
I would kind of agree that that's a different verbiage. Some
Yes.
say nirvana, some say heaven, some say fifth dimension, whatever,
Yes.
or another dimension. Yeah, I would agree. I would love to be there for the 2%, like their welcoming party, you
Right.
know? When they
Yeah.
show up and they're totally like, whoa, I thought it was lights out. And I'm there with a trombone. You know?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, foolish mortals. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I were talking the other day, and I was like, okay, but once you get past the waiting stage or the moment you pass and you're met by your guide and they escort you to heaven, I was asking you, I was like, what does it look like?
Yes.
I want to know.
Yes.
Because, it's not just floating on clouds. And then I think a lot about what Linda says, and I go, is it just here? But it's at a different vibration and frequency or dimension, so we can't see and interact with them like we do in our dimension. But people like you and others around the world are able to break through and communicate. But so I get really infatuated with what does it look like?
Right.
Is it rolling grassy hills? Because there's talks about in this book of Dolores's about the flowers of
Yes.
there being colors of flowers you've never seen before, and there's music in the air.
Yes, the
There's
music.
places to go, like libraries to study, temples to pray
Yes.
and meditate. There's places
Right.
that all of us can access, but they have no physical mass.
Right. They're all, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're all created by our subconscious, I guess. I guess that's the way of putting it. I had asked my mother this question, and I know I had talked about it in a previous episode, that there was one day I was doing a meditation, and I see things in the meditation when I'm talking to them or they're showing me things. I see it just black around them. If you watch Stranger Things, it's very similar when Elle goes into her state. Well, that tripped me out. When I saw that on Stranger Things, I was like, no way.
And that happens in Soul, too.
It happens in Soul, too. Yeah, and every time I'm like, okay, well, that's weird, because that's what happens to me. And then to see it is like, wow. Anyways, so there was one day that I asked, what does it look like over there? And she said, well, what's going on behind you? Why is this black is what I wanted to know. Why is it all black? Because if we showed you what was really going on, you would be too distracted from what you need to be doing and not paying attention to what's going on. So they black everything out so that I don't pay attention to anything other than them, which makes perfect sense. But she also showed me what I would see. And I truly believe that we all see whatever we want to see. And what I saw was Alice in Wonderland's one of my favorite movies, my favorite Disney movie. It was very Alice in Wonderland-ish, very bright colors. There were flowers I had never seen before, like big flowers that look like they might eat you, but they're not going to. They're very, they're heaven flowers, so they're not going to hurt you. But yeah, it was beautiful, and rainbows and grass, and just absolutely beautiful. But what you might see there is different than what I see.
Right.
So it's just in, our own interpretation of it. And really, like, if I wanted to expand on that, my whole reality could be like Disneyland. It's just whatever you want.
There's something else, too, that in regards to this is things I've read on, and I've known some people that have gone through near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that when this immediately happens to you and you pass, or, your heart stops beating, that if it's not your time to go, I don't believe they show you all of heaven.
No, I don't think so.
Because they know you would not want to come back. Mm-hmm. And these are in some of these stories in the book as well. Like, they don't, once they see it, they're like, I don't want to go back.
I'm good.
And then they're told this is not your time. So they're not really visually shown everything until it's official that this is the position. So I kind of believe in with your mom. Yeah. There was a moment there where she was told or shown, if you stay, this is what it's going to be like.
Right.
And if you leave, this is what it's going to be like.
Right.
But the leaving part, I don't think she saw fully heaven until you actually decide or the decision is made. Then the doors open.
Yeah, I don't think so
because,
either.
it's just too incredible.
Yeah.
It's just too incredible.
Yeah.
To even wrap your head around.
Yeah. So, again, I think it looks different for everybody. It's what you want it to look like. Mm-hmm. So our listeners asked questions, and then I had come up with some other stuff that my clients ask me a lot of these things. And so I feel like these are good things to talk about. Like, who is in the spirit world? People, animals, what's going on? Is everybody there? And it's our belief that we all go to the same place. There is no hell. There is no separation of, you were Christian and you were Jewish and you were this. There's no separation. We're all together.
Right.
One of the reasons that I really truly believe this is because I believe in reincarnation. And reincarnation tells us that we live multiple lives. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to go to hell for one life because you have lived so many lives. How would that work? You're just playing a game or in a movie or a simulation, and when it ends, you go home.
Right.
I want to go home. That's our new song of when we're tired of Earth, if anybody's heard it on TikTok, because I don't know what it's happened to me as I've gotten older and more into this, that I don't feel like this is home. I feel like this is some weird place that I want to get away from, and I can't get away from it, but that's the way it's supposed to be, because you're supposed to be here. So it's like, if there's a part of you that craves a home that you don't know where it is, that might be why.
This is our belief, our opinion.
Yeah.
And for many, it's hard to wrap their head around. But I absolutely agree, that's the purpose of all this. I might rock a boat here and say that Christ himself has lived many lives.
Many lives.
And when he came to this life as Jesus Christ, he chose to do this to try to show us what the truth was.
Yep.
And we jacked that all up.
Yeah, we really did.
You know, so, I mean, you can... We were watching this the other night about Dead Sea Scrolls and comparing the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Bible, which is most of the Bible came from the Dead Sea Scrolls, that the stories vary.
Yeah.
From the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Bible.
It had been translated and all this stuff.
What is it? What's the edition of the Holy Bible that everybody has? Not Gideon's Bible, but...
New Testament? I don't know. I don't know my Bibles.
It's Thomas something. I forget his name. But that's the smallest version of the Bible is the one that's the most widely available. And then like the Catholic Bible is like... I think it's 73 chapters. And then there's the Ethiopian version or the African version that's way more than that. So certain cultures are condensing or removing very important parts of the story.
Yes. Yes.
So, but yeah, I think he ultimately came here to say, you guys, you're not going to die. You're going to live on forever. And all your problems, all these woes in the world, you can take care of it all yourself.
Yep. Absolutely.
You just have to believe it.
Yep. How do we feel about people that we see on the other side? I get asked this a lot.
That's a great question.
And I actually have people that will say to me all the time, like, I don't want to be anywhere near my mother when I get there because we had a horrible relationship. Or if I see my ex, I'm... Okay, you are so thinking like a human. Thinking over there is completely different. It really is like when the movie ends and you stop playing these roles.
Right.
Everything changes when you get there and you see why it all happened the way that it did. It doesn't make sense to us here because we're human. We don't think like that. We don't understand that side of things. And you know what? To be really honest with you, I think that sometimes I know more than I should, or maybe too much information because it makes the experience maybe a little less human. But these things we're not supposed to know, I don't feel. I feel like we're supposed to have the human experience, most of us. Yeah. So it's okay not to have all of this information and to think that we might feel that way when we get to the other side. Those are all human emotions. But the truth is those human emotions, they stay here. There's no such thing as holding a grudge over there. You're not going to, see your ex and be like, ugh, gross, you know? Why did I,
That probably would have been the first one I would have thought of, like, really? God.
Right? But instead, what's going to happen, okay? What I believe is going to happen, or what happens in these situations, is that person... your ex-spouse, your mother, whoever it was you had the hard times with, they have played other roles in your life, your other lives.
Yes.
So you're not going to hold against them what they did in this life because it actually was, it was lessons. It was tests. It was, you guys were put here. You chose to come here to have these kinds of things together, to be... what's the word I'm looking for? To participate in this movie, this play together, these roles. And that's all it is.
And you're privy to the memory once you get there of why that life went the way it did. Maybe it was because of what happened in the previous round.
Yes.
That you experienced with this soul. I think, like for me, I imagine what will happen once I and my child's biological mother are both passed on the other side is, yes, all that animosity drops.
Yeah.
It's not like, ooh, hey, oh, la, la. It's not like
I have
that.
two wives now. Yeah, no.
No, it's like you just there's no gender. It's just your essence.
Yeah,
it's just soul. Your essence. It's just you. I see everything dropping and we become fully focused on our daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
The life itself is precious. So all of the souls on the other side, and I believe including angels, are working for that.
Yes.
For life.
Yes.
That's what it is, because without these lives available, the lessons won't be learned on a mass scale.
Right. Absolutely.
But with all these bodies and lives and planets and things available, there is plenty of schooling for all of us to learn.
Mm-hmm. On this subject, Tracy asked a question. She said, what happens to your spirit team when they decide to reincarnate? For example, grandma passes and then becomes part of your spirit team, guiding and protecting you from the other side. When grandma decides to reincarnate, does her guidance go away because she is now on Earth again? Does a spirit have to stay on the other side to be one of our guides? I thought that was a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yep. So I believe that, well, this is what we choose. I think a lot of times those souls stay there until we get there. I really feel like my mom and my grandma aren't going to go anywhere, but they could.
Right.
It's completely up to you when you want to go, what you want to do. But I do think that that has a lot to do with the lessons that you're supposed to be learning together. So for me, for example, my mother and I were supposed to have a certain type of relationship. It was supposed to be different than it was. And unfortunately, it didn't go that way. So what is my mom doing on the other side? She is helping me to undo the damage that she did and trying to right the wrongs so that our relationship can be what it was supposed to be. I really believe that that's what they do. And if that's what they're meant for, that they will stay there until you get there. But if they are not like a big part of your spirit team, like, for example, my grandpa Bob, I feel him, but he's not like totally involved in everything. He could go before I get there and it would be okay because he's not really so much involved, you know? I don't feel like he will though. For me, when I connect to people's relatives on the other side, a lot of times it seems like the grandparents are there and the parents, if they have passed, those generations, and sometimes the great-grandparents. I've never seen great-great-grandparents. I really, truly believe by that point we have reincarnated.
And I agree with that also because typically there's too much generational gap between us and a great-great-grandparent.
Yep.
Right? Most of us have never even met our great-great-grandparent.
Right.
I met my great-grandmother when she was like 89 or something. She was already kind of, she kind of scared me as a little kid. Sorry, great-grandma. But, it was a lot of mumbling and strange talk. Yeah,
no, I understand.
Furry moles and things that, I was just scared of. But I didn't have a relationship with her. I didn't know her. So essentially, there's no reason for her to stick around there until I arrive.
Right. Totally.
I think it has a lot to do with your connection to that particular soul, too, whether they'll be there when you get there.
Yep.
If they aren't, like let's say Kitty's not there when you arrive.
Yeah.
You're going to be there already and be able to communicate with her like during dream time.
Right.
So you'll both be aware that okay, we're where we're supposed to be.
Right. Well, and the thing is too, like I don't know how all of this works, but our soul splits and it can split into as many pieces as we want it to split in. So your higher self is really a piece of your soul on the other side that's helping you to guide you in this life. So even if my grandmother were to reincarnate before I got there, that piece of her soul that stays there it's enough, right?
Yes.
It's enough. So that's kind of what confuses me about the whole thing, but that's what.
Yeah, in terms of like a simulation, I definitely agree with that. It's like, okay, I'm awake here, which means I'm dreaming there.
Right.
But I'm totally aware of what's going on in my life. Right. And I'm doing my best to consult with the other souls that are there that might have more wisdom or experience or just care.
Yeah.
With them, I'm consulting on what to do next.
Right. Yep. And to be clear, because she had asked about this, she had talked about the spirit team, and I mention that often. Your spirit team is the people on the other side that have, people that have passed that are helping you. they can be a little tiny player in your story, or it can be a big one. So like my spirit team, I got my mom, I got my grandma, my grandpa, the man that I was raised to think was my father. But I also have friends that have passed away. Michael, Lynn, other people that have passed that are a part of my spirit team because they help in different ways.
Yeah.
So I really feel like all of these people can be a part of our team to some extent. Our soul family is a little bit different. Our soul family are the people that we play these roles with in different ways over and over again. So like my friend Lynn, I don't know how many lives I've known her in, but I feel like, she's a part of my spirit team, but maybe not a part of my soul family. Hope that's not confusing.
Right.
But I think that's
I get it.
Yeah. One of the other questions was, do you have instant knowledge and memories of all of your lives that you've lived when you arrive to the other side? And what I believe happens is I think that we start with this life. We get there. It's just like anything else. It's like going on a vacation and you need a little while to kind of settle in, or whatever. It's just like that. You want to get reacquainted with these other souls and look at your own life. What did you do when you were here? All of that. Maybe rest a little bit, But after that, I think that the other lives start to come back to you. I think it's all slow, but it's accessible.
Yes.
That's the thing, is you can know anything at any time just by asking or wondering about it or whatever. But just like when it comes to, me being a psychic and stuff, I'm not given every ounce of information all at once.
Right.
It's as I ask for it. So as you ask for it, it will come to you slowly so that you're not overwhelmed, is really how I feel. But yeah, I think you do get all those memories, all the knowledge. You see the things that you're like, oh, God, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. That's one of the things that's like really changed for me, is that I feel like I don't want any more of those moments. Like I don't want when I die to go to the other side and have any more moments where I'm like, obviously that's not realistic. I will still have those moments, but I strive to not.
Yeah, that's a good motto to live by.
Yeah, because I don't want to see myself in those situations. I don't want to look down and be like, oh my gosh, I did those things. I want to get past it. And so I think that that's part of the spirituality that's helps you in those areas for sure. But yeah, you will be able to see and hear and know everything that happened, not just in your past lives and in this life, but everything of the other people as well. Like all of that information is accessible. What's going on? People ask me all the time, did my loved ones know what's going on here with me? Yes, they know everything. Yeah. Everything. There's no secrets. They know more about you. Yes.
And that's another one that's sort of hard to wrap your head around. It's like, how?
Yeah.
They don't have any physicality to them. They can't pick me up and push me out the door and make me go to work or make me do this or, how? Well, Dustin earlier, and what he said earlier in his experience is a great example. Someone said, slow down.
Yep.
It's like they're with you.
Yep.
They're watching. Now, maybe he wasn't going fast, but maybe that was because something might have been coming up.
Exactly.
And if he didn't slow it down, he was going to approach it and maybe be part of it.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. Would this be a traffic accident? Would this be a, fatal gun shooting? I don't know.
Right.
But he listened. He heeded the warning. And he did what he was supposed to do. And he's fine. That's what I take from it.
Yeah, absolutely. They can do things like the little tap on the shoulder, telling you it's time to go, or, putting something like, I mean, really, even as far as like if you're looking for something you need before you leave the house and they need to put you back a little times to avoid something or whatever. Yes, the other side has this kind of ability to help us. They really do. That's why when we talked about in the previous 2 episodes, Death by Design, that's why I say that we don't die until we're supposed to die. The other side can intervene with things. Our daughter was in a minor car accident a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it really shook her up. But I feel like the other side did 2 things here. First of all, it was very minor. But if
Yeah.
she would have left literally a couple of seconds earlier, maybe not even that, the accident would have been much worse because she was hit in the back end instead of in the door.
Yeah.
She would have been hit in the door, and she wasn't. But
Right.
also, this was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It was to say, these things happen. You need to slow down. You need to think about things. They help us with this stuff. I used to be a horrible driver, and I just wanted to get wherever I could go as fast as I could go. And I'll tell you, I've had probably a dozen speeding tickets in my life. The last one I got was in 2012. And I feel like all of these tickets were the universe's way of saying, slow down. And I finally got it. I don't know why it took me so long, but I finally got it and went, I don't want any more of these tickets.
Yeah.
And I've slowed down, and this is how the other side helps us. They really do, to avoid things from happening, because death isn't supposed to come until it's supposed to come.
Mm-hmm.
Death by design.
Yep.
How much time we got left? Oh my goodness.
Uh-oh.
Why does this seem to go so fast? Okay, well, I want to read a couple of quick things that a couple listeners said real quick.
Okay.
Sunshine said, I saw this in a meme. What if the light at the end of the tunnel when you die is you exiting the birth canal into a new life? And I was like, no, please.
Gotta have a little reprieve.
Please.
But that's funny.
Yeah. But I shared one the other day on Facebook that I absolutely loved. And it said, people that they say, death is not the end. And then me, and it has this kid, and he's like got this screaming face on it. There's more. Whenever I think about that, I think it's
awesome
hysterical.
meme.
I laugh because it's true. It's like there's more. What? But I really hope that that's not the tunnel going back out. You need some time.
Yeah.
Time in the middle. And then Shannon said a real mind bender here. She said, "Is there really a between death and rebirth? Isn't it all happening simultaneously?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part I won't know how that works until I get there.
That one's a little bit
Yeah.
too, my human brain has a really hard time grasping that one. But yeah, it absolutely is possible that everything's going on at the same time. But we will find that out one day.
One thing I'm particularly kind of interested in seeing that Dolores talks about in several of her books, I'm sure, is the quilt of life. And this is like a quilt that is like living fabric. Mm-hmm. And you can go to any point in time and actually see, look in the quilt and see whether it's prehistoric time, a point in your life, one of your lives, whatever.
Right.
But this thing just stretches like an infinity hallway, apparently.
Yeah.
So there's things like that. I still go, wow,
How does that work?
how can these things exist? But,
Yeah.
more than one person is sharing this. And I go, well, there's got to be some validity to this. There's so many, even though the experiences are all different for us, there's so much that's the same in a lot of these reports that she puts in her books. It's so much similarity to what's being said, the overall idea, the experience. It's like, wow.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, these are all things that it's like, how does that work? If it's just perception, how do we all have access to these places? But we are human, and we have been programmed to think like humans, and it's very difficult to grasp these things. And I used to be this type of person that it's like, well, if I don't see it, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But now I really believe that absolutely anything is possible, because it is. There's an amazing world out there that we don't even know anything about.
No.
And we will when we get back. So we do, but we don't. We just don't remember, really, is what it comes down to. But we will. We'll be back there one day. And I think about that. I don't know if you ever think about that. What does that feel like when you get back there? And then you realize, I'm here and then I have to leave again. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm so inquisitive about what does that feel like?
I think it's like being home, like really being home.
Yes, I think
I
you're
think
right.
more than a lot of us lead on is that we walk around this earth and these bodies sort of feeling foreign.
Absolutely.
Like, what's going on? Even though you might be totally programmed like the next person to be like, yeah, okay, my name is Danny and I go to do this and I go to work and I clean the house or I, whatever, drive a car. But there's so much more.
Yes.
There's so much more.
There is. And, there was one person in the poll that said it's lights out. And I can tell you that if there's anything that I can guarantee you, it is that it is not lights out. It's not. There's something crazy going on that we don't even know because we can't see it. And it's wonderful and beautiful. And we just have to trust.
Right. You better have your imaginary sunglasses on because lights out. No, it's going to be the brightest light you ever see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like what you were saying about wanting to be there when some of these people get there and seeing the look on their face like, oh, I was wrong. I was wrong. It's not
but
lights
not
out.
in a sarcastic way because I really want to celebrate and see their surprise.
Yeah, me too.
You know, of like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
I'm so happy it's not lights out.
And the ones that like lived their lives in such a strict way because they thought that they had to, like, I'm not putting down Mormons, but it's like, come on, coffee and soda, you can't have it, can't watch R-rated movies. Why? Enjoy your life. Go and do it. When you get there and you're like, wow, man, I could have done all these things and shouldn't have felt bad
celebrate
about
birthdays and
yeah, go trick or treating.
some of those things.
That's Jehovah's Witness, but yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
definitely. So
crazy.
So, anyways, that's
very cool.
A fun topic, even though it's morbid, so they say.
Not really.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
I liked it. Good job.
Thank you.
Well then, before we say goodbye to everybody, would you like to share your information one more time?
Yes, you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. If you would like to reach us at the show, you can email us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com or find us on all social media at spiritualjoneses. And thank you to our discussion group.
Thanks,
again.
guys.
Thank you.
That was
Love
good.
You guys.
Always good, but
Yep.
lots of great input.
Yep.
Yes, one more time for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Fabulous.
And that is it for me.
Another rep.
Well, we hope you guys got something out of this.
Yes.
That we didn't scare people.
No.
Just know that it's more wonderful than any of us could ever imagine.
Yes.
Ever.
And it will come at the time it's supposed to.
Yes, it will. Yep. We all get to experience it. Yep. Every single person.
Yes, every person.
We hope everybody has a wonderful week.
That we do.
And until next week, peace and love.